Indiana football's in the top 25. We're 5-0 for the first time in 57 years, and I'm just saying, we ain't done yet.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into this, the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, thank you so much for being here, making this your first listen, your first watch every single day. Shout out to all of my everydayers. You are the reason that we're here. You're the reason we're so successful, and you're the reason that we passed 3,000 subscribers last week on YouTube. So thank you for that. Already on our way to 3,100. So thank you for making Locked On Hoosiers your go-to spot each and every day. Well, hope you had a fantastic weekend. It was a lot of fun around Bloomington and around the Indiana fan base as Indiana football, they continue to win. Yes, they defeat Maryland. They take them down. Final scores seem to be a little bit misleading. We'll dive into that here today, how we are finally in the top 25 of college football, plus a little bit of updates on the Indiana basketball side of things. Recruiting practice started this week, so more on that later in the show. Well, we got to start with the news that we were asking for. And I was asking you late last week, if Indiana were to beat Maryland over the weekend, would they be a top 25 team? Some of you may have saw the poll that we did on YouTube. Some of you may have just responded in the YouTube comments. However you did, I appreciate it. And I asked you, if we beat Maryland, should we or will we be a top 25 team? And I think the consensus for part of it was we should be a top 25 team. If you're 5-0 and you've decimated your opponents, right? Then yeah, you should be 5-0. But I think we were all a little bit curious and questioning on whether we would be. Well, there's no questioning anymore. In the AP poll and in the coaches poll, your Indiana Hoosiers, Curt Cignetti and the boys, are 5-0, and they are now in the top 25, coming in at number 23 in the latest AP poll, 172 total votes for the Indiana Hoosiers. And we absolutely should be. I mean, there's no reason for us to not be a top 25 team. And I'm not saying that being top 25 is worth getting a ring and all of that stuff, but I do think it's worth being celebrated a little bit and noted, especially for us, because it's the first time since 2021, and that was a preseason ranking where we then lost it the very next week because we dropped our opener. So this is a big deal, and it's showing us a lot of progress here. It's showing us that it can be done in Bloomington. It's showing us that this is working right now with Curt Cignetti. And this team is really, really good. I mean, are they Ohio State good? No, but they're really solid. And they have done everything they're supposed to do through the first 5 games of the year. You've got a game against Northwestern this weekend. You finally get a bye week after that, which will be really, really nice before you host Nebraska. But overall, what more could we ask for from this team? And I think the fans have a lot to do with that too. I love the new thing that Curt Cignetti started this weekend, the letter to the fans, the letter to the students, right? He said, studying, it can wait. Weather's bad, who cares? Come on out and support this team. You will not be disappointed. He wrote a full-blown letter to the fans and to the students, and they showed up. The crowd there on Saturday was phenomenal. I know the weather was crappy, but you showed up and did your job anyway. And it showed and it proved, and it proved that it worked. And it was beneficial to this team who did not play their best football on Saturday, did not play their best football at all. But yet you showed up and supported them, and they pushed through and they got a nice win. And then you got a letter afterwards. Curt Cignetti said, go celebrate. You deserve it. Then you can study later on. I love this guy. I love Curt Cignetti. He seems to be like the cool dad, right? He gives off the cool dad vibes. Like, look, I know you got stuff to do. We'll get to that in a little bit, but come on. We got football to cheer for. We got football to watch right now. We'll get back to the studying later. He just seems like that sort of a guy. And I love it. I absolutely love that he's engaging with the fans and being a part of the community, and the fans, you responding to that, and the students responding to that. That's what's so important here. So shout out to this football team, man, for showing up. Again, not playing your best game at all. We're going to get into that in just a second, where what we learned this weekend. But you did not play your best game, and yet we fought through it and got a really, really impressive win, 42-28. And this is one of those games where somebody's scrolling through the scoreboards on online, right? They didn't watch the game. They didn't even keep up with the game. They didn't even see a highlight of the game or a low light. And they say, oh, wow, Indiana's rolling, 42-28, next. And they just move on. But for us that watched the game, or for those that were there, or whatever the case may be, you understand that this was a big win for us, because we very easily could have lost. There were certain aspects of this game where we played losing football. Turnovers is the biggest one, I think. Not forcing turnovers is another one on defense. But we still won. And not only did we win, we covered. And not only did we cover, which I know that's not important to the coaches, but it's just a fact. You win, you also covered, and you won by double digits. You won this thing by double-digit points, 2 touchdowns. Again, Indiana has not trailed this season. We have yet to be trailing in a football game through the first 5 weeks of the season. I don't care who we've played. I don't care if we're playing a local high school. That's still impressive to me. For this team, for this program, for this university, that's impressive. And we're doing what we need to do and taking care of business. That's something we haven't seen in a very, very long time. So yes, I'm going to pump that. I'm going to celebrate that. And I'm going to give them their flowers, because they've earned them through the first 5 weeks. They're 5-0 for the first time in 57 years. They're ranked in the top 25 since the first time in 2021. They've got a chance to go 6-0 into their bye week before they host Nebraska, a team that looks beatable. They struggled with Purdue, who I believe just fired their offensive coordinator. So yeah, I don't know about what all's going on over there. More on that later. Bottom line is, Indiana football, we're rolling. And I'm telling you right now, Hoosier fans, we're not done. This season's long from over, and Indiana's got everything out in front of them, and they're being led by the dominant and the influential head coach, Curt Cignetti. Well, coming up on Locked On Hoosiers, we learned a lot this weekend diving into Indiana and Maryland. Indiana had the turnover bug on Saturday, but they overcame it. Plus, defense played lights out per usual, and we learned some things around the Big Ten Conference as well. All that coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, whether it's Sunday night, doubled Monday night football games again this week, or even on Thursday night football, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. That's what I do. I just open up the FanDuel app, check the scores, check the stats, and then you can bet right there on the FanDuel app. It's perfect for me. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. So go to FanDuel.com to get started today. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you for being here, and shout out to all my everydayers. You are seen, you are heard, and you are appreciated. So thank you so much for being here and making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. If you want to become an everydayer, it's really simple. Be sure you hit the like button on this video, shares it, spreads it around, lets other people find the video. Also, comment down below your thoughts on Indiana's 42-28 win over Maryland this weekend for football. I want to hear what you have to say in the YouTube comments down below. And then be sure you subscribe to the channel. I mentioned we're past 3,000 subscribers. Huge milestone for this show. I'm so happy and so honored to be here doing this with you. And so be sure that you are a part of the next 1,000. All right. So right there next to our Locked On Hoosiers logo, it's just to the right of it. Hit that subscribe button for me. Helps me out tremendously and lets you know every time that we post a new episode. All that's on the YouTube side. For those of you that are on the audio side of things, be sure that you subscribe there if possible. Follow us over there. Turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode of Locked On Hoosiers. All right, so we learned a lot this weekend around college football, but we'll start with what we learned about this Indiana team. And we learned that we are not perfect. We learned that we are not we are human, I think is something. We're not a machine, right? We are perfect in terms of our win-loss record at 5-0, but we did not play a good game Saturday. We did not play a good game Saturday at all. 4 turnovers. 4 for a team coming into the game, one of, I think it was 4 or 5 that had not turned it over all year long. Yeah, wasn't pretty. And here's the problem. These turnovers were early in the game, right? Curtis Rourke threw his first 2 interceptions this year. Also, we lost 2 fumbles. He was 1. I mean, this was a very nasty game. And I know that the weather wasn't right. The weather was not good. But these were just poor decisions. They were bad plays. They were mistakes that Indiana made. And to give away the football 4 times and then not take it away any, that's not a formula for winning football week in and week out in the Power 4 and the Big Ten. But Indiana was able to respond and get away with it, right? We win 42-28, but Maryland hung around in this football game. And one of their touchdowns was a fluke. I don't care what anybody says. It was a fluke. If the official doesn't get in the way, our boy makes the tackle, and he doesn't bust one off for 75 yards for a score. I'm just saying. Get out of the way. I know why you're there, but move. Get out of the way, man. Unbelievable. That was to tie the football game, by the way, and Indiana responded to that. Responded to turnovers, responded to the weather, responded to adversity. What did I learn about this team this weekend? I learned that we're really good. I learned that we can take a punch or 2 or 3 or 4, and we're going to be able to respond. Now, what happens if we go to Columbus and they put 13 or they put 3 touchdowns on us in the first quarter? I don't know. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just throwing out scenarios. Then how do we respond? I don't know. Guess we'll have to find out. Hopefully we don't, but you never know. In this game, though, this was the first time we really had to sit back and think, wow, here we go. All right, we've got ourselves a football game, because the other 4 games, man, we just rolled. We did what we were supposed to do. Yeah, some of those teams hung around for a minute, but not for very long. This game, though, you played for 4 quarters, and you had to play for 4 quarters. But even given all of that stuff, we also learned that this offense is really, really effective through the air and on the ground. I was really impressed with Curtis Rourke bouncing back after both interceptions. He stepped up and made some great throws, man. A couple of nice touchdown passes, made some really good key third down decisions as well. 7 of 13 on third down where the Hoosiers, like, dude, that is winning football. That is winning football. 7 of 13 on third down. How about 510 total yards? You outgained them by over 100 yards, and you still put up 500 yards after turning it over 4 times. Like, we're doing the right things, man. We're doing the right things. You take those turnovers away, and, man, we put up 80 on this team. Literally. I mean, we put up a lot more points than what we did. And 359 through the air, 151 on the ground. I'd like to see more rushing. I would, but when Curtis Rourke plays as well as he did, minus the turnovers, then it's hard to take the football out of his hands. I totally understand, especially when you've got guys like Elijah Surratt and Omar Cooper who are getting in the end zone. Surratt with 7 catches, 128 yards, and a touchdown on Saturday. You want to get it to your explosive playmakers because they can do stuff like that. I was impressed to see that Tyson Lawton almost had 100 yards. He got a touchdown on the day on 19 carries. That boy's getting the work right now, and I absolutely love it. He is, between him and Justice Allison, man, this is a really, really good 1-2 punch. One that I think we can rely on. You can count on those two guys day in and day out. And so all together, we learned that the offense is not perfect. They can turn it over, but they also can respond and they can play high level football, and they still put up 42 points. The team put up 42 points. Now, defensively, we learned that this is a really good Indiana defense, and they absolutely get after. They didn't force any turnovers on Saturday, which would have helped our offensive turnovers, yes. But they still did exactly what they were supposed to do, man. Aiden Fisher is that dude. I told you on Friday, my everydayers know this. I told you, let them get after it. Just say to heck with the playbook and let the defense eat. And that's exactly what they did. This team overall had 5 sacks on the day. Aiden Fisher and D'Angelo Pons both had double-digit tackles by themselves. Both these players are leaders on this defense. They're communicators on this defense, and they are playmakers on this defense. And I love watching them play, man. They're so much fun to just watch how they roll. Pons had 7 solo tackles, Fisher with 5. So many guys got involved. And man, you hold that Maryland offense to 28 points after giving it to them 4 times. Big stops for this Indiana defense. And they just made big plays. And they got put in some bad situations, right? They got put in some bad situations and they responded. And so overall for Indiana, I think, again, we learned we are not perfect. We can be hurt. We can be wounded, but we can respond. And we have to find ways to clean up bad decisions, bad mistakes, bad turnovers. But even when we do those things, we're still good enough to win football games. Against a team like Northwestern this weekend, yeah, it can probably happen. Against Nebraska, it cannot happen. Against Michigan, even though they looked very beatable, it cannot happen. Ohio State, absolutely not. Our schedule's not that tough. It's not that tough, but we still have work to do. And Curt Cignetti's the first one to tell you that. He is absolutely the first one to tell you this team has work to do. But if we keep getting better every week, the sky's the limit for this team. We're nowhere near done. We're 5-0, top 25, have a winnable game this weekend, a bye week, and a huge matchup with Nebraska. That's what we can see in front of us right now. And I'm telling you, this team is nowhere near done. The potential of Indiana football in year 1 under Coach Sig, it's as high as it's been in a long, long time. Maybe my lifetime, literally. I mean, it just seems everything is going our way right now. Knock on wood there. We just got to keep our head down, keep grinding, keep rolling, and see how the rest of the season plays out. Because Indiana football, I'm telling you right now, we are not done. All right, when we get back, we will talk a little bit of Indiana basketball, have some updates on recruiting as we move into a new week. October is tomorrow, which is pretty crazy. So what do we know so far, or I guess updates right now in terms of Indiana basketball recruiting? Practice started last week. All that and more coming up in our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. They fluff out all of the other show and all the picks and all the tickets and all that stuff, right? They fluff it out and they show you only the incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time is my go-to spot for all things ticketing, sports, music, comedy, theater, you name it, they got it, and I use it. I don't use any other app, don't have any other site, don't even think about going anywhere else because Game Time is the only one that benefits me, and it's just the best one out there. They have the views before your seat. They've got super deals. They have their lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, and so much more. There's nowhere else I'd rather go than Game Time. And with that lowest price guarantee, Game Time, if it's not, they'll credit you 110% of the difference. So you must go to Game Time. It's a win-win no matter what. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. create an account and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you for being here. Shout out to my everydayers. Shout out to all my newbies here as well. I know there's a lot of you, and I appreciate you. And hopefully you are adding this to your routine, truly making this your first listen, your first watch every single day. If you're looking for your second watch or your second listen every day, look, October's tomorrow. And college basketball, it's right around the corner. So you've got to go check out my boys, Andy and Isaac, over at Locked On College Basketball. Just type it in on YouTube or on your audio platform, Locked On College Basketball. They talk all the biggest news around the sport and recruiting and lineups and starters and injuries and schedules and all sorts of things, as we're just a little over a month away from college basketball. So go check them out. Tell them that Jacob from Locked On Hoosiers sent you. Go check out Locked On College Basketball. Well, let's flip over to basketball here because we do have a few updates in terms of Indiana basketball. Practice started late last week. Nothing crazy in terms of news or anything like that. The one thing that we do need to highlight, the team getting back to normal and getting back into the routine. You saw some of the videos that they're back in the gym, and they seem really excited. Right? I mean, they seem excited to be back in the gym and working and practicing and just getting in the groove of things. And we know we've got some exhibition games coming up and then the start of the regular season in early November. Hearing good things about Ja'Kai Newton, that he is at least active and he's actually playing a little bit. So I don't know a ton, so we'll have to just kind of wait and see on that, but we'll get more updates from practice, hopefully this week and beyond, in terms of what's happening with Indiana basketball, the current team. In terms of recruiting, though, I know we're still kind of reeling in the pain of missing out on Jalen Harrelson, and it stung. It absolutely did. But in this business, man, you've got to move on. You've got to swallow it, and you've got to move on because there are still more guys to get, right? There are still more battles to be won. And right now, Indiana's still in a massive battle for Braylon Mullins. It's one-on-one, I think, us and UConn. Eric Reibe, I think we are right there. I'd say we're the leaders for him. The personal feelings. Personal feelings here. I think we're in the lead for Eric Reibe. I think we're still working on Michael Brown. I think we're still working on Bryson Tiller, too, which I know that's a name that gets lost in the mix here. But Indiana's still working on him, and I think he is still somewhat considering Indiana. So keep that one in mind as well. You've just got to go get them now. You've got to go and figure out how to get these guys because Braylon Mullins is going to commit sometime in October. Like, we're coming up in just a couple of weeks on his commitment decision. We don't have an exact date yet, but I guess the feeling around his camp is mid-October, and so you've got to find a way to make that happen. It's us and UConn, I'm telling you, and everybody wants to say it's UConn, and guess what? It probably is right now. So go figure it out, Indiana. Go figure it out. I told you on Friday I was fired up. I was heated on Friday because people are like, well, what does it mean that you have to go get him? You must go get him. And I told you straight up. I told you what that means. Go and get Braylon Mullins because he is the future of your program. He can make your program better. He can change the future of your program. Or you can sit back and let somebody take him again, and we can be sitting here and watching another big recruit leave our state, go somewhere else, have us in the top 3, have us in the top 2, and then pick the other school. Do you want to be in that spot again? I don't. I'm tired of it. I'm absolutely tired of it. And that's what's at stake here with Braylon Mullins. Eric Reibe, on the other hand, the must in terms of getting him is he's your future big man. He is the future center of Indiana basketball. You can continue the trend. You have Trace Jackson Davis. You have Khalil Ware. Now you have Umar Ballo. And then you could bring in Eric Reibe. That is how the trend works. Indiana continues to do that year in and year out. So there's your motivation there. Go get one of the best big men in all of high school basketball, bring him in, and make him an Indiana Hoosier. Michael Brown, he is one of the best players in the entire country, and he plays point guard, a spot that, let's be real, we've struggled for the last handful of years. We have needed an elite point guard for years. I think we've got some good guards on the team right now, but Michael Brown Jr. is that dude, and he would walk in and threaten to start right away. And that is your motivation to go and get a guy like that. Bryson Tiller, dude's just an athlete, man. Dude's just a killer on the basketball floor. He likes Indiana. He likes what we're doing here, and I think he's interested, so go make it happen. Go bring in a class that makes people say, oh, snap, look at what Indiana did. And I want to say this too. For all the transfer portal lovers out there, I love the transfer portal too. I do. I promise you I do. But don't you understand that if you get more high school recruits, it makes your life easier in the transfer portal? It makes it to where you don't have to go and get 5, 6, 7 guys in April in the transfer portal. Like, man, that's exhausting. That's exhausting. And it's stressful. It's stressful, man. You get down to April and you're like, man, we don't have a center. We don't have a guard. We don't have depth. And we have to rely on the transfer portal for that? Okay, there's a lot of players in there, but what if it doesn't work? What if they go somewhere else? And what if we strike out again? I don't want to live like that. And I'm sure Mike Woodson and this coaching staff don't want to live like that either. That's why high school recruiting is so important. The development aspect, the potential aspect, and just a lack of stress, man. You get those guys in, they can work as long as they need to, and you know what you have, rather than getting around to the end of the season, seeing who leaves, having to replace that and replace what you already don't have. Like, there's so many factors here for what Indiana needs to do in the high school recruiting ranks. Long way to go in that too. I think some of these guys will commit soon. Some of these guys are a long way away. Hopefully we get more updates from practice as well, as the month of October starts tomorrow. We're just about a month away from Indiana basketball. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you again for being here. I appreciate you. If you're an everydayer, thank you. You know who you are. And I promise you, your support means the world. And if you're becoming an everydayer, if you're a new everydayer, thank you for that. Or if you're just stopping by, maybe you want to hang out for a little bit and come and see a few more episodes, you can click on our Locked On Hoosiers logo. Got all of our shows right there. Audio, same thing. You can scroll down. You can find all of our previous episodes right here on the show. Be sure you like this video before you go. Like this video on YouTube. Comment down below, who is the next big recruit that Indiana must go get in terms of basketball? Who is it? Who do they need to go get right now? Tell me that down below in the YouTube comments. And then the best thing you can do on your way out, hit the subscribe button on our Locked On Hoosiers YouTube channel. On our way to 3,100, and I want you to be a part of that, okay? We're back tomorrow as October begins. We'll be back tomorrow. So until then, Hoosier fans, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.